Thank you for joining us. I'm Paul Wilson, and this is Diesel Performance Podcast. Guys, it is the very end of the year here. We got one last episode for 2022. We just thought it was time to throw it back to a rebroadcast to somebody who has passed away this year, somebody who I think made a huge impact on the diesel performance community, somebody who will be truly missed, and honestly, just somebody that made an impact on I think all of us in diesel performance. So here is a rebroadcast of our interview with Turba Tom.
Guys, you may notice by our backdrop, we are not in the studio right now. We're recording this one late at night because I think we have somebody who, like us, has a lot of passion for diesel performance industry, so much so that he has turned his hobby into going to the Ultimate Callout Challenge. It's Turba Tom, guys. Turba Tom, how the hell are you?
Thanks, guys, for having me. I appreciate it. It's awesome to be here.
Sorry
for my voice, by the way. I had a good time at UCC, and I'm still a little.
You were cheering and you were ramped up. You know, that's all it is.
Oh yeah.
I love that. I think we've all come back from UCC with that just totally burnt throat from having that whole weekend of the stress and the fun and the drinking and the sleeping and the not sleeping and all that all together. One thing I will say is coming back from UCC is I know going into this event, there were a lot of us that had an eye on you and kind of getting into this and really wanted to see what your truck was going to do this year. And I thought it was an amazing showing. For anybody who's been living under a rock, can you give us a rundown? Tell us about your truck.
All right. So this is a 2010 Ram. I decided to go with a 4th gen platform because, well, 3rd gens, everybody's got them. I wanted to do something a little different. I started with a 4th gen that was a daily driver, and I was like, I got all these parts and I can't drive the truck because it's broken half the time. So I went and I found the cheapest 4-wheel drive 4th gen I could at the time in the country, flew down to Florida, my first time ever on an airplane flight, and drove the truck home. Proceeded to swap all the parts off of my 2012 onto my 2010, made a street truck, had a good time, and slowly started trying to get it faster. Eventually got it down to like a 1019 and a quarter. Factory ECM, which if anybody knows anything about these ECMs, that's a lot. I don't know of anybody with a factory 4th gen, especially 2010 to 2012 ECM that's been that fast. But then things got out of control. So I went to UCC, I believe the year they had the qualifier. I don't remember if that was 18 or what. Met Trevor Peterson, was looking at his truck. He followed along with what I did, and he's like, you can build this. And that was the downfall. So from there, pushing this thing to a 1019 in the quarter, starting to cut it up and all that. I'm like, well, I need to do something. The stock bottom end's not going to hold up. So I contacted Freedom Racing. We got a kind of an idea what we wanted to do. I wanted to go from 1,000 horsepower to 2,000, which you skip a whole lot of steps, lot of learning that you miss in there. And I've been trying to catch up ever since. So the truck was obviously down for quite a while that was happening. So I proceeded to just gut everything. The floor, if there's a double body panel on something, I tried to take it off. Basically the cab is just like one thin piece of sheet metal. I had the cab off the frame, cut big holes in the frame, which maybe I shouldn't have done that. I don't know. And just kept cutting the truck up. Eventually I 4-linked the truck. I front 4-linked the truck, got rid of the factory front suspension. So I also needed a cage. I was going 1019s. Track never gave me a problem, but I know if I was going to take this thing racing, it'd be an issue. So I bought a bender, bought some tubing, and I said, well, let me try it. Like the hardest part of a cage to me is like the main hoop. So I did a main hoop and I did it one night. I'm like, this isn't a big deal. So rather than 850, let's just do a 25/6 cage. So I built the entire 25/6 cage myself in my garage. That took a lot of time. I don't want to say I'll do it again, but I'm glad I did it. you can definitely tell on the cage where I started and where I finished because the craftsmanship got better as it went. So now the truck is certified down to a 10 or 799 and a quarter. And I think, I'm not sure what the 8th mile certification is, but did that all myself. Learned it all myself. Never was taught how to cut tube or do any of that. I knew how to TIG weld. That was about it. Just kind of figured everything else out for myself. Got our Freedom Racing engine, stabbed it in here. Muldoon's Performance transmission, which they were doing my transmission work before. Definitely kind of a next level build for them. And we've learned throughout it. And now, like, we have a trans brake in the truck. It's our first truck with the trans brake, stuff like that. I've burned up a lot of converters, just learning, not knowing any better. Like, hey, don't bring the thing up on boost 3 or 4 or 5 times in a row. It gets hot. Well, you don't know that doing it in your garage. You're like, oh, the pan temperature's this, not realizing all that heat's in the converter. But all that kind of stuff. So anything on this truck that you see, I did myself. Freedom built the engine, Muldoon's built the transmission, and Hardway does the tuning. Anything else, it's me. If you see a weld or something that doesn't look right, that was me. I did it all myself. Mounting the fiberglass doesn't fit perfect. I did it, and I'll take ownership of that. I mean, it's my first front clip I've ever mounted. So kind of the build.
As you're talking to us and telling us about this, there's a lot of questions that spark in my head. And the first one is, I know you had said it was 18 or 19. I want to say it was 19, the qualifier at UCC. Did you compete in the qualifier, or you were a spectator at UCC that year?
Oh, I was a spectator. Okay. I might have had a media pass at the time with the YouTube channel and all. So I was just going around talking to people, and me and Trevor Peterson, the T-Pain truck, we really hit it off.
Okay.
To the point that he was in my crew this year.
Okay.
And he's just like, dude, he was following along with the YouTube channel. He said, you could build this. And that got the gears turning. And yeah.
So do you have any, drag racing? Yes, I understand that you were drag racing with the truck, but you had never been in any other competitions, DPC, All Truck Challenge, anything like that. You just decided you were going to build this badass truck, one-off, no experience with like major truck competition. You're just going to throw your hat in the ringer for UCC in 2020, or 2021, sorry, which was your first year, correct?
Yes. So when I first built it as like a street truck, I wanted to do like DPC or I guess it's All Truck Challenge now, but at the time it was King of the Street. But they missed a year there, so I didn't know what was going on with it. And DPC, the problem with DPC is you have to be voted in, right? So I'm like, well, now I'm confined to an event that I don't know is going to happen again, an event I might never get voted in. So I was like, well, let's just go for it.
That's awesome.
UCC, you got to show what you do to do UCC. That's how it always was. And so let me get this thing out there and see how fast I can get it. And Trevor, once again, he in 21, I guess UCC put out, we're looking for 2 more competitors. So I, put an email out. Here's what I got. A couple of my, people that help me out, my sponsors, Fluid Amper, Fleece Performance, contacted those guys like, hey, look, I want to do this and I am serious about it. Like I'm going to show up and I'm going to try and put my best foot forward. I'm not going to show up there and just be a joke. I want to do good. And they helped me out and we got into UCC 21.
That is awesome. The story because it is right, Chris. This is like what I think of when I think about passion for diesel performance. Where we talk to a lot of the shops, and the shops, it's not a financially viable option to go compete at UCC for 99% of the competitors who have ever been there, right? Like this generally is all about passion. But when it's not a shop, when it's not like, oh, I went to work today, worked on customer trucks, and then I finished my truck while I was already there and I had all my tools there and I have all these resources and I have all these connections and I have this experience. You are literally, like you said, going from 0 to 100 in an amazing pace of just saying, I bought a truck or I started a YouTube channel and now I'm competing at the highest level of diesel performance competition. What are some of the things you wish you could go back and redo over this last build and going into UCC this year?
I mean, as the build as a total thing, if I would have known I was going to build a Pro Street truck from the get-go, there's a whole lot of parts I wouldn't have bought when it was a street truck. I mean, a whole lot. Basically, I built the truck and I'm like, I'm going to make the most badass truck I can. If it falls into 590, great. Falls into Pro Street, cool. And we went faster than a 590. I'm like, well, I'm not slowing it down. I got to go faster. And, I got the truck down to a 1033 or no, a 1027 is the best pass I made last year on CSP1, right? Never really turned it up, and I was just still learning nitrous and stuff like that. And the truck could have gone so much faster last year looking back. But as far as the build total, honestly, there's nothing I would want to redo differently because I learned so much through every aspect of it that, the trials and tribulations, the things that I screwed up and I know not to do again. And honestly, there's some mistakes I made this year at UCC that I made last year. And it was just, I got so rushed and flustered that I didn't think of it. And I'm like, oh, you idiot, and it's just like, I should have learned from my mistakes better. And then going forward, I'm going to try and do that. Absolutely.
If you don't mind me asking, how do you juggle building a Pro Street truck of this caliber and doing it in a DIY fashion and then documenting everything and having your own vlog channel with YouTube? What does that balance look like?
Honestly, when it gets down to crunch time, the YouTube stuff goes away because it's been a week and a half since I posted a video because honestly, I've been thrashing. I haven't had time to pick up the camera, let alone edit a video. One of my big things with doing the YouTube channel is I have people coming up from the spectators coming up and, hey, you're really showing us that the little guy can do it. I have guys tell me, you taught me how to put head studs in.
That's awesome.
And to me, that's really cool because in that video, I was wondering how to do it myself. That kind of stuff. A lot of the stuff you see, it's the first time I've ever done it. It's the only truck I've ever forward-linked. It's the only truck I've ever done a lot of stuff to. And but the balancing act part of it, honestly, like at UCC, my crew this year, they were great. They'd pick up the camera for me, but honestly, I didn't think about the camera at all. I was thinking about the competition, and they'd pick up the camera, maybe interview me once or twice, but I was just thinking about the track, the dyno, the sled pull, whatever. And then I'll figure out how to make a video out of that later.
Let's talk about the competition. Day one was the drag race, and where did you fall in the overall standings after day one?
So I found myself fourth place. I didn't go as fast as I wanted, and a lot of people laughed because I'm like, oh, I only went a 10:45 or 10:45. Only went a 5:45 in the 8th. And the reason that doesn't sit well with me is I went 5:33 last year off the trailer. So I wanted to do better than I did last year, but when I think back, I did the hot retorque on this truck 1 week exactly to the day I was supposed to be drag racing it. So there was zero testing, zero anything. But that being said, I did hit my one goal of being the fastest truck there that didn't have a turbo 400 in it. Because with a 48 RE, an Allison, whatever, 4R, it's hard to compete with a turbo 400.
Yeah.
So I was the fastest truck without that transmission, which that's a goal I hit and I'm happy about. And I'll be honest with you, drag race day, we thought we were spraying the house down on this thing by the end of the day. And I pulled the bottle out at the end of the day. I'm like, man, this thing's really heavy. Went over to 30 hooker diesel. I weighed my bottle. We used 2 pounds of nitrous in 2 passes. So we were using basically a spool jet. So a little bit of learning there, but I was having a ball. I mean, getting back in the truck, I was having a blast, just making passes, and I was having so much fun.
Well, I think that's all part of this, and it's amazing to me that you enjoying it as much as you do is kind of like what drives you. Building the truck, documenting it, doing all these things that you do where pretty much everyone that you were competing against have a team working on the truck. It's not one guy in a garage welding and learning how to put in a cage or linking the front part, the rear end of the vehicle. Like you don't see any of that. There's not a lot of DIY guys in this space. Guys are backed by shops, owned shops, work at shops, that kind of thing. So as we talk to all the other interviewers and we talk about these types of things, like I feel your excitement, I feel your passion, through this interview so far. And it's super cool. Like I'm getting goosebumps as we're talking about it. You really have a flame to you when you're talking about this stuff. Oh yeah, man, I was just in the truck. We didn't run the best time, like last year off the trailer, but I was just hot lapping, having a ball. Like that's what this is about, right? Like that's what diesel performance is.
Yeah,
how many passes did you end up making on Friday?
We made 7 passes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we may have lost reverse after about the 3rd pass. I think the forward clutches welded themselves together. We might have a little issue there, but my team's like, we'll push you out of the tent. We don't need reverse. I'm like, all right, I'm down. Kept going. And it didn't falter. It would shift. We got our shift points dialed in, 5,000, and just, we come back and I'll tell you what, my team, nobody else has touched this truck other than me, right? But they came in. I had Whitley Peterson. He hit me up. He helped the T-Pain crew out last year. He's from Georgia. Gave him a shot helping out on the truck, and he did great. Mr. T-Pain himself, Trevor Peterson, the day before UCC said, I'm flying out to help. My dad and my one buddy who's not in the diesel performance at all, they all came out and was like, we're going to help.
That's awesome.
None of them really know the truck, but those guys got, and I didn't have to tell them anything. They got dialed in. We get the truck back to the front clip up, fan on it, filling it with fuel. Basically, all I had to do was pull a data log and figure out what was going on. And I didn't have to say anything. I mean, it just, like the team just came together so quickly, and with most of them not even knowing each other. I mean, it was awesome. Dude, I had so much fun. I think I had more fun this UCC than I had as a spectator, as a competitor last year. I mean, I had a blast.
Now, one of the common things that we see with a lot of competitors is there's a lot of changes from day to day, setup to setup, in preparation for the next event. So you had 7 passes under your belt drag racing. What did that preparation look like from Friday to Saturday, getting ready for the dyno event?
So Friday to Saturday, getting ready for the dyno, we threw the G57 turbo on top of the 88 millimeter GT55. Not really a big deal. The piping kit kind of works, or so I thought, which I'll go into. Changed some nitrous around to some buttons. Just that's how Derek taught me last year, and got our nitrous game figured out. Ryan Milken for Hardway Performance sent me over a new tune file. Hey, run this. Like, what do you want to do on the dyno? I'm like, I want to put up a number. All right, use this. And then everything looked great. We chalked up the rear end, so that was a solid suspension and all that. Then dyno day rolled around. I still had to put a lockup switch in it, stuff like that. And then it kind of went haywire when it was getting close to be my time to go up to the dyno, which happened last year too, unfortunately. But had leaking solenoids, had this problem. Kenny Bruner, he came over. He was a competitor last year. He came over. He says, dude, you got a big exhaust leak on the back of this turbo. So I said, do what you got to do. And they took a grinder to it. They figured it out, got everything sealed up and right. So I could go just kind of get in my headspace. They took care of everything for me. Got the nitrous problems figured out, and we were ready to go. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot, but we probably should have been a little more particular looking over our stuff. But that's, once again, just me inexperience.
What kind of power did the truck end up making on the dyno day?
Unfortunately, we only made like 1,856 horsepower,
okay,
and 2,600 foot-pound of torque, but that was on 5 cylinders. So in the morning, Chase Fleece told me, because the first 2 passes on drag day, this thing was still on break-in oil. So we did an oil change, all that. He said, hey, make sure you check valve lash. So we went up, made our pull, and the truck wasn't running right. And everybody said that, and we couldn't figure out why. So we were changing sensors out, doing this and that. And somebody made a comment, it might have been Ryan Milk, and it sounds like you plugged an injector. So immediately my head went to, I did valve lash this morning. I probably forgot to tighten down the injector harness. Full valve cover, I'm checking the injectors, and Trevor Peterson goes, dude, what's going on here? Here, number 4 cylinder, the intake valve bridge is laying down in the valley. I forgot to tighten up the jam nut on the adjuster for the push rod.
Oh,
So we were running
no.
5 cylinders on the dyno. I that's 100% me. I bit myself in the ass on that one, and we just didn't have the tools right there to get it back, together. And plus, it was hot. You're supposed to do lash cold, And you know what? I'm not going to try and break it to try and put up a number when I just got it back together and I want to go drag racing. So we pushed it off the dyno with a 1,800 horse 5-cylinder pool.
What was the number you were shooting for? What would you have been happy with?
Anything over 2,090. So my first time ever last year on the chassis dyno, first time ever doing it, I put up 2,090 horsepower, 2,700 foot-pounds of torque. So anything better than that. My goal was to just beat me last year. Unfortunately, I didn't do that, and it's 100% my fault. So definitely, that's something I'm going to double check every time I'm under that valve cover.
You could look at it as you should have checked it, but damn well you'll never forget it again, right?
Well, that's the other thing. Me not doing this for a living or anything. Between the hot retorque and that day, it's the second time I've been under the valve cover in 10 months.
Oh wow! Oh my god! Yeah. I could see that.
This is the draw, right? Like this is the draw to the Turba Tom YouTube channel. Is that like it is this real world shit that, like, to be honest with you, I know we talk about you doing it because you're not a mechanic, but there's plenty of guys out there who made this simple of a mistake at UCC that own a shop. There's plenty of mechanics out there who have put a customer truck together that have made this simple of a mistake. Even though they do it for a profession, it's very easy to be human. It's very easy to make a little mistake like this. I think that's what's cool about the channel is that we get to see that behind the scenes and we get to see that kind of authenticity to it. But it is one of those, I know that it burns, right? It's like, sure, I learned. It still sucks. We're still looking at going forward. Now, 1,800 still puts you in the middle of the pack. Right?
Yeah, somewhere in there,
yeah. And then to look at going to the sled pull, we've been having this big conversation about 2 trucks. Obviously, Ziegler had 2 trucks. Burkhart's had 2 trucks. We talked to Patterson. He was rolling solo, so he was one of the other few guys out in the field who ran one truck in all 3 events. Before we talk about your performance at the sled pull, tell me about your thoughts about the 2 truck rule.
So I sat in them stands before I was ever on that track. And as a fan of this, I wouldn't like it. I knew that as soon as I heard about it, I said, well, I'm not doing that. And I tried to start getting stuff together. I mean, I got a big Rockwell rear sitting here. I borrowed some 488 gears and a locker for the front. I was going to swap in later. No, I just ran out of time, honestly, because I wanted to go against some real deal sled pullers and try and show them what's up. Like, if I can be a real deal sled puller on their turf, like, all right, that's awesome. But as a fan of it, I don't like it. I get why they did it, and I don't begrudge any of the competitors who did it. If you don't take the rules and use them to your advantage, that's on you. I mean, I knew I was, doing the underdog thing, doing that. And I just thought the guys in the stands would appreciate it more. And that's why I did it, because if I was sitting up there, I would respect the guys like Chris Patterson, myself, Eric Merchant, and there's a couple other teams that did it as well. Yeah. And, I would respect that so much more. Like, I went up to Chris Patterson when we were going to roll my truck back. Like, I had just met him before sled pulls. I wanted to make sure I went, said hi, and introduced myself. I said, hey, man, congratulations. You did the best of any of us guys that used one truck. I mean, he got 4th overall. That's awesome. And I just appreciate it, and Eric Merchant got 2nd in the sled pool with the same truck he used on the drag strip and the dyno. And I respect the hell out of it. But like I said, I don't disrespect Derek or Justin or any of them. Hey, here's the rules. If you're not using those to the fullest of your ability to try and win, then you're a fool. Or you know what I mean? Like they're doing what they need to do to win.
And I mean, we've asked this to all of the guys that we've interviewed, and me myself, I was a spectator in the stands watching the polls on Sunday, and it did get a little confusing, trying to figure out what truck was pulling for what team and what that looked like. And I could say that a lot of end people, spectators and competitors, there's a couple competitors like you said, Tom, we're using the rules to our advantage. The rules are the rules, and we could do what we want to be within, the respect of the rules. And you have a lot of those spectators that are like, hey man, UCC was one truck, prove yourself, and those roots are kind of missing, this year at the competition.
Yeah. And I felt the same way. I got out of the truck, like, hey, let's go over, just talk to some people, enjoy the sled pulls. And there was guys up, and I'm like, I don't even know who this guy's sled pull for. I mean, I give guys like Quality a big shout out. I mean, hey, yes, Quality, Dirty Hooker. I mean, the truck that Derek brought, he built a lot of that truck. They had a hand in it. Yeah. But then there's other trucks that I just called this guy from wherever. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I thought about it for a second. And I'm like, you know what? That's not me. I want to do this. That's why I did it. I don't really get sled pulling. I did it. I've done it twice, and I still don't understand it. I don't know why people think it's so fun. I mean, it's not like drag racing, So
I love that type of feedback, though, right? It's because this isn't a bet on, hey, if I could get first, I could help expand my business. Like, this isn't an investment for you. This is pure cost. So if it's going to be pure cost, it should be about pure passion. It should be about, I built this truck for me, I'm taking it to UCC, not the other way around, right? Like, we like to see that. Tell us, what changes did you make to go from the dyno to go out and go sled pulling? How much work did you have to do Saturday night?
We changed the front 4-link bars, the rear 4-link bars, put a sled pulling hitch on it. I put my front frame back on because I had actually cut it off for drag racing, and I made a setup so I could bolt the old front original frame back on the truck, then put the weight box on, filled it with weights. We left the big turbo on because Chase Fleece was like, I'd leave that thing on there. I was like, okay, we'll leave it on there. So now that I have confidence in it there, I'll probably try and run down a strip like that at some point. Change the wheels and tires. I mean, that's it. I mean, it sounds easy. It just took us a little while to do, We had a lot of crests and wrenches floating around because I don't know. I need a wrench. Just grab a crest and, heck with it.
Now, what did you end up? So you said, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. You said you had pulled twice. So is that safe to assume that your second sled pull was at UCC this past weekend?
Yeah, they're both UCC sled pulls. The first one was last year and this one. So
that is awesome. Tom, where do you live in the country?
I'm in southeastern Pennsylvania.
There's sled pulling in your area, man. Like, what are you doing?
There's a sled pull track literally 5 miles from my house. But they don't allow nitrous, so I don't know what to do. I don't fit any classes. I mean,
yeah, I mean, up here in Illinois, there's some brush pulls. You could pretty much just like go pull like an expedition hook just to, get it. But I get what you're coming from. You're a full-fledged drag racer, and that's where you're going to stick to your roots. I get it.
I'm more of a tested tuner. I mean, I really haven't done enough drag racing. I'm getting into it. I mean, my first drag race was against Johnny Gilbert of all people, Like,
wow. And these are guys, we're talking about names that, like, I used to go to Shide back in 2012, 2013 to the extravaganza. And these are seasoned vets in this thing that you're having your first next to. That is so cool.
I'll tell you what, that drag race last year at Rudy's, it was a true Fast and the Furious moment because I got him off the line because like I screwed up and kind of jumped forward, but I was still in the beams. And he's like, what's going on over here? And I thought I had him right at the line, 150 mile an hour. Here he comes. I'm like, oh, well, there goes that. It was one of them. I thought I had you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I mean, the blast.
I love that the truck is literally just to go fast. You're like, I'm a test and tune guy. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I won a drag race. It's just, I want to go fast. I mean, we went last year after UCC went to MIR for Truck Mania, and it's quarter-mile tracks. So it was like, at some point I'll run it out the back end. First pass felt great. Boom, 8:26, and I was blown away. I got that time slip, but I just started screaming. I went from 10s to coasting the 9s to running an 8 something, and I couldn't believe it.
That is hard to get your head around. You haven't had. I mean, how run me back? How long have you had the truck?
Oh, since 17, maybe.
Okay.
I can't remember. I mean, the first video on the YouTube channel was me flying to get it. So go back to that. I mean, it's been quite the evolution.
That's super cool.
Tom, we saw an amazing performance from you. It's been a blast following along for this year's UCC. This is 2 years back to back. Can we assume you're in for a third? Or are we committed to that?
Yes. I mean, I didn't beat myself. Well, I beat myself this year and didn't beat myself in 21, so I want to beat my performance from 21. One thing that you guys don't know, the rear axle in the truck may kind of look like a smiley face a little bit. So I think the sled pull track, we did a little damage there. So we're going to be doing a little upgrade in the rear end of the truck.
Oh my God.
But yeah, the future of the truck, I want to run ODSS. I missed the first race this year, and then the race there at UCC, I didn't compete because really didn't have a handle on the truck yet for getting back to a pro street spec. So I want to get it back there. I would love to run a 4 on a 48. But UCC 2023, I definitely want to do again. And I got this big Rockwell sitting here I didn't use this year, so I guess I'm going to try and use it next year.
You have another 363 days to get it together for the rear end then at that point, right?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there'll still be a thrash the last week. That's how it goes.
Now, you're the first guy that we've interviewed that has confidently thrown their hat in the ringer for 2023.
Oh, I mean, they're scared of me. What can I say?
I would have to agree.
What is it about this event? What is it that is making you say this early on that this is something you want to do again?
I'll be honest with you. A lot of it is the spectators. When they come through, and it bums me out when I don't have time to talk to people. But the people come through and they watch the YouTube channel or they just see what I'm doing, and I'm signing autographs. I'm just a guy in my garage. I'm signing autographs. It's a very weird feeling. Like I said, I'm just a guy in my garage, but when I have guys coming over and saying hey, you helped me do this, or you're showing me this, or you're making me feel like I could go do this. Dude, that's a feeling that I never expected with all this. And I find so amazing. I mean, I had a fan of mine, and I'm going to shout them out, Jennifer and Mitchell Phelps. I've been in contact with them, met them in UCC in 18. They saw that we were working on truck, getting ready for a slip. They went out and bought us a half dozen pizzas and came back. And I'm like, you guys didn't have to do that. I was so blown away, but it's that kind of stuff. And just the spectators and the fans, how much they appreciate what I'm doing. It means the world to me. It really does. I don't want to let them down.
Oh, I think there's an authenticity to you that's very genuine that goes a long way. And there's a pure passion and pure drive. You're not doing this to oh, fuck this guy, fuck that guy, I'm going to go smoke this guy. You're doing it.
We didn't ask that. Is there anybody?
No, you know what? Let him have the humble moment before you bait him, okay? But it's one of those things where it's really cool to see, you're doing this to better yourself. You're doing it for fans. You're doing it for the people that are supporting you. You're kind of like the people's champ, in a sense. You're doing it.
I live close enough to Philadelphia. I'm like Rocky. You know what I mean? I'm just not Italian.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Rocky of Diesel. I think we just found the name for the episode.
I like that.
All right, Paul, bait him in your shit talking.
All right. No, but we wonder, was there anybody? We know from experience that it is actually really easy to make friends in this industry because it is filled with a lot of really cool people that want to help. You're talking about huge names out here, but these are guys that Chris and I have met at several events that are just super cool, down to earth people who just want to help each other, right? But is there anybody who's rubbed you the wrong way? Is there anybody we got some competition out there for? What about the other YouTubers that are looking at this event? You want to tell?
What about Josh McCormick? You trying to fuck Josh McCormick up?
Yeah, he's a big deal. Yeah,
no, I have zero problems with Josh. I mean, if Greg A thinks he can build something, we'll see. But I have all the respect in the world for Josh. I'll tell you what, I've never met somebody with so much no quit in him. That man, Josh won't quit. He won't falter. And I'll tell you what, it's impressive. It really is. I talk shit my own way. I don't do it out on the internet and all this kind of stuff. I'll do it in person or if I know you. So like Justin Ziegler, we talked on the phone before UCC last year. He gave me some sled pulling tips because I had his old sled pulling setup that he made for Mike Wiskowski. And when we were at UCC, we introduced ourselves in person and all that. And I said, well, look, you're the favorite. I said, I'm here to fuck you up, and it was just, it's all in good fun. He was pitted right next to me. I'm borrowing tools off of him left and right. They're borrowing stuff off of me. It's all in good fun. There's not a competitor that was there that I wouldn't help. There's not a competitor there I wouldn't ask for help from. A little good ribbing's good there. I don't do that stuff on the internet too much. It's just not my place. If I was smart, when they're making all these bets, I would have bet Derek and Justin that my drag truck was going to outpull their drag truck because I would have won that.
Next year. There's always next year.
That is so well said. So well said. All right, man. Well, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you carving out some time for our fans out here. Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I want to give a shout out to my crew this year. My dad, he pulled my sled pulling setup out there, supported me through the event. Whitley Peterson, he came up from Georgia. I really didn't know him. I gave him a shot, and hopefully he's going to be helping me out like Rocky Top, stuff like that. Really great hand. Anything I needed done, he did it. My buddy Josh, he's not in the diesel thing, but by the end of the weekend, he's like, I get it. This is a great group. And then Mr. T-Pain himself, Trevor Peterson, like I always say, this is your fault, Trevor. You caused all this death, all this carnage. But no, he flew out last minute, helped me out. Great dude. I also want to support, I also want to shout out all my supporters like Fleece and Freedom for this badass engine. Hardway Performance for the tuning. Ryan's always on top of it whenever I need anything or performance parts. Also Fluid Amper and AirDog, they really reached out early in the whole YouTube thing. Like, we think you're going to do big things, and they've been supporting me ever since. Muldoon's Performance Transmission, they're always there for me. Whenever I need anything, I got 2 badass transmissions. I went through 2 UCCs without having to put my spare in, which I think says a lot. And then Matt Sancher from Sancher Performance Development for these input shafts. I don't have to worry about them. I'm not going to break them. And that's just awesome. And the last shout outs to Derek at DNR. He really took me under his wing at UCC 21, and I learned so much. And I probably hit him up on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, just asking questions. So, and other than that, I would give a shout out to all my competitors. It was a blast competing with them, and I hope to see him again.
That's awesome, man.
Well said.
Awesome. We've talked a lot about your DIY aspect and the reach through the channel and finding people who are new to this industry and looking to replicate your results, looking to get into this as well. If somebody were to come to you tonight and say, hey, I want to go to UCC next year, what should I do? what would your advice be?
Find a team or a group that you like what they're doing, like Justin did, like I did, like me with Hardway, SNS, Freedom, Justin with Exergy, Firepunk, and D&J. Find a group that you like what they're doing, that you get along with, and go that route, and just make it like a team effort. Yes, I built the truck myself, but that doesn't mean there wasn't input from other people. I probably should have asked more questions. That's another thing. Like, ask a lot of questions. It'll save you a ton of time. But yeah, find a group like that you get along with and you really match up with, and that helps so much. It's a team thing. My big thing is I built the truck myself, but that doesn't mean there's not a lot of people in the back end that support me.
Absolutely.
If any of our viewers want to, follow along for the rest of your journey with this awesome truck, what's your YouTube handle? How can they get in touch with you?
It's Turba Tom, like turbo, but with an A. Turba Tom on the YouTube, on the Instagram, on the Facebook. That's how you can keep up with the truck. There's no secret sauce here. If you want to build this truck, watch those videos. You got a pro street truck. There's no hidden sauce. I lay it all out there. Trials, tribulations, mistakes. I try to make sure I especially include the mistakes. Like, people will say, like, why did you put that in there? You look dumb. Because I messed up. I want people to learn from that.
There you go.
They don't do the same thing.
Very good.
I think that says it better than we could put it. Guys, thank you so much for following along. Make sure you jump on over to the Facebook group. We got a poll going right now on Fans of Diesel Performance Podcast Facebook group, asking what you think of the 2-truck rule, and we want to hear your feedback. We hope to loop in the UCC higher ups and kind of let them know, hey, this is what we've heard from people in the future. So Turba Tom, I can't say thank you enough. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. This has been one of those interviews that I know reinvigorates my passion for diesel performance.
Oh, 100%. We'll do another one when I run that 4.
There you go. We'll be following up with you then, so you better be ready.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try, hell. I'm
There
going to
you go.
try or blow it up. That's
Thanks for joining us today, guys. This has been Paul Wilson
And Chris Emke.
Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
There's no secret sauce here. If you want to build this truck, watch those videos. You got a pro street truck.